Welcome to the Love the Star podcast. I'm Bobby Belt, Dallas Cowboys insider for 105 through the Fan in Dallas, joined as always by former Super Bowl winning NFL scout Bryan. He is now the co-host of the G-Bag Nation 2 to 7 p.m. Central, Monday through Friday on 105 through the Fan in Dallas. He is also the pre- and post-game co-host on the Dallas Cowboys radio network. He is also, as well as myself, the owner of a new fresh pair of Chill Boys underwear. And again, we thank Chill Boys for being our brand new sponsor here on Love the Star. If you go to chillboys.com and enter promo code STAR, 15% off just for you. You can get into mine and Bryan's underwear by going to chillboys.com and putting in promo code STAR. Bryan, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm actually wearing my Chill Boys right now.
I am too.
Yeah,
I am
they
too.
Are super comfortable underwear.
They're perfect.
It's not one of those things you always want to talk about your underwear, but I'll talk about Chill Boys. These things, I mean, I've been wearing them, I'm like going, my gosh, these. So it's find myself doing, I've got a couple of pair, kind of find myself doing laundry quicker to get them back in the rotation.
That's the play. Yeah, it's wonderful. Look, if it's all about freedom here. Freedom and comfort, and Chill Boys will give you that. So you go promo code STAR, and that'll be 15% off your order at chillboys.com. Bryan, give me just a couple sentences, your brief overview of what the Dallas Cowboys did in the NFL draft. They come away from this thing ultimately with 7 picks, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. They come away with 8 picks in this draft, Bryan. How do you feel about the overall draft class? What do you think the goal was based on what we see here? What was the goal from the Cowboys, and how close do you think they came to executing it?
You know what? I think they have to be very happy about the way that things went for them. For them to get that 73rd pick in the 3rd round from the Detroit Lions. But it's funny, the Detroit Lions, they caught the right team. Detroit throughout that draft was very aggressive, using picks, using next year's picks. Detroit had a plan of what they wanted to do. But when you were at 24, there were some teams that we were talking about. Detroit wasn't one of them because it was such a massive overpay for the 73rd pick on their part. But Detroit, they're like, nah, we don't care. Here, take 73, flip us back a 7, we'll be good to go. They got their guy, but Dallas was able to recoup. And I think going in, they wanted to find a way to grab an offensive lineman, whether that was a tackle or a center. Now, I've talked to people since about, well, was there a thought about maybe – I asked this question. You asked me to be brief, but I'm sorry. You know me.
No. You're good. Hit it.
Okay, I talked to –
the only briefs here today are the Chill Boys briefs.
Yeah, I talked to – Chill Boys the best, by the way. So I talked to some folks – and I asked him, I said, if you would have had your 4th round pick instead of giving it to San Francisco, would you have sat there at 24 and picked Graham Barton, the center from Duke? And my guy goes, I don't want to get into what. I don't want to get into, this. But I will tell you this. Value of a tackle is more important than the value of a center.
Yep.
And I went, okay, I understand now. So to me, maybe it wasn't about taking a center at 24. It was, the focus was trying to find an offensive tackle.
I think Mike Solari.
I think that's what they did. But for them to move back and then to get 73, and 73 turns into BB, the guard from Kansas State, who could project a center or has played center. Now you're doing some work. If you say, okay, Graham Barton or Guyton and BB, man, I think they executed that very well.
Yeah, I think I think that's absolutely the case. If you tell me the option is, like, if you just boil it down to that, which would you rather have, Barton or BB and Guyton? That to me is not even a question. That is the better value is Guyton and BB. And to be honest, I think the Cowboys would have taken Tyler Guyton 24 overall if they needed to, and they would have felt comfortable with it. So to pick up pick 73 and still get Guyton, I think was a massive victory. Now I'll say this. I think one of the things we're learning, Bryan, is that in the evaluation process, when they're building the board and everybody goes in there and gets their say, I think just from 2 years of talking to him ourselves and seeing the way he communicates with the room and everything like that, I think Mike Solari is a very persuasive salesman of his ideas to the room. I think that he's somebody who gets across his ideas and his concepts really well, and people believe in his evaluation, his passion. So I'll say this. I think that if Barton and Guyton are there at the same time and you can't bail out, I think Mike Solari is in that room arguing for Guyton, because I think that he believes in Brock Hoffman so much that to him he says, this is redundant. I don't need this. I need tackle. I don't need the center because I got him already. And I think that would have been very persuasive, even if there would have been some people in the room that said, I prefer Barton. I think that Mike Solari arguing passionately for Guyton may have moved the needle with the Joneses as well, and said, you know, if this is this close, our coach here seems to think it's good. But I think there are plenty of scouts who would have argued for Guyton. The upside here is tremendous. You know, I know we had a national scout, Ross Winchy. He came in with us on Saturday morning. He said most athletic tackle that he's ever scouted. You know, you heard Mike Solari talk similarly about the athleticism, and you know, Chris Vaughn, assistant director of college scouting, was talking to us about the rarest trait currently coming out of college with offensive linemen, and the reason why it's such a talent-starved position in the NFL is just the athleticism. The size and athleticism combo is just very rare coming out of college. So when you see it, you're willing to bank on raw at those positions a little bit more. So I think collectively taking that all together, you can see why the Cowboys buy in, similarly to the reason why you saw they bought into Tyler Smith a couple years ago. And I don't know about you, Bryan, while Guyton is raw, I don't think he's as raw as Tyler Smith was coming out of school, and Tyler Smith figured things out pretty quickly. So I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility to think he could get himself ready with the right work ethic and the right coaching. Yeah,
I mean, he played a lot of snaps.
Yeah.
You know, not as many snaps as BB's played. You know, BB's played. You know, if you ask me who is more ready right now, I think BB could plug and play. And
yeah, BB's ready right this second.
We'll see about the center aspect of that all. But I really do like both players. Man, how strange was it, Bobby, with Futana?
Troy Futanu from Washington.
He was close.
Yeah.
I mean, it was close.
I don't think they move off the pick if Futanu gets there.
I don't think they do either. I don't know if 73 would have taken him off that. I
don't know that Guyton was a first round grade for them. In fact, I don't believe he was. Futanu, I think he was, and they only had 15 or so.
Right.
And so to me, I think that moves the needle for them pretty significantly.
Yeah, that was man, it's strange. We didn't feel like that Barton would even get to him.
No,
you know,
and he did.
And that just goes to show you every once in a while you start talking about the draft and you're like, that guy's not going to get there. That guy's not going to get there. And then all of a sudden players start to slide and you're like going, wow, he actually did make it to us. So
yeah.
It's something that you file away for the next draft when you start to think about, okay, why did we have this guy? Why did we not think? What were the reasons why we didn't think he was going to get there?
Yeah.
But I think to answer your question that you initially asked me, I think overall they're happy with the direction that this thing went. You know, I think they're happy. And, you know, most teams, everybody's out there like, damn, Broadus, everybody's happy with their draft. That's why it's the draft, you know?
Yeah.
But there's some times where you feel like you might have missed an opportunity. I feel like they missed an opportunity. But
yes.
But it's them. They to a man, everybody we talk to, coaches, scouts, that Notre Dame linebacker was somebody that they coveted. They coveted that player. And I felt like that was the one opportunity that you had to maybe grab that running back.
Yeah.
Whether it was Lloyd from USC, Wright from Tennessee, you had that opportunity. But the Notre Dame linebacker was much higher in their eyes than grabbing a running back. And I was kind of like, man, and it especially hit me when Green Bay took him the pick after you. That's when it hit me that, wow, okay, here was, so once they passed on those third round running backs, I think they were out. And I applaud them for doing this. They didn't try and force the issue and draft somebody that they'll end up cutting or be on their practice squad. You know, oh, let's wait till the 5th round and see who's on the board. Sometimes you try and force that. Well, we've got to have a runner. You know, we've got to have this running back. They didn't do that.
Yeah.
They didn't do that. They drafted their board. The Carson pick, the Wake Forest kid, he's got a chance to be a star. And just from watching him play, I really like him a lot.
Yeah, he's a good player. Like you talk about length, I think in terms of scheme versatility, the different kind of things that he can do. Because I mean, I think he can play cover 2. I think he can do some different things for you. And the size is prototype, honestly. And it's a good player. It's a guy that, you know, when we're talking to people around the league, trying to figure out as we're going along day 3, like, hey, who are the best guys left on the board? Who's kind of flashing for you a little bit? You know, he's one that I was getting feedback around the league, like, surprised Carson hasn't gone yet. Carson hasn't gone yet. And I think for the Cowboys, when they got into that pick, the sense I got coming out of that building was that they described Neyland as a blinking light, which is, of course, means like, hey, this is so above anything else that we have right here. You can't ignore this. Because I know, like I said, when we're talking to the scouts the day of the draft, Ross, when she came and said that Neyland was a guy they were talking about on Thursday night as one of the best players left on the board. And for him to get down 24 more picks to him, that starts standing out for him a little bit. But Carson, I know, was a guy that I think they had graded. They might, I haven't been able to knock down a specific grade. I think they had him graded close to a 3. I think he may have been around a 3rd round grade for them.
Yeah. See, I like the player too. I had him in the 4th myself. The thing that I'm going to be interested in with Neyland is I think this might be their opportunity to say, we're tired. It's not just the linebackers that are problematic in our run defense. It's our edges.
Yeah, now that's an important thought. Let's get to that here in just a sec. I just want to remind everybody, you're listening to the Love the Star podcast. The Love the Star is an Odyssey podcast. You can find it on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Brian, you were just talking about it, the idea of Marshawn Neyland coming in here. One of the things we heard consistently, and it shows up on the tape, Marshawn Neyland is a plug-and-play, ready-to-go run defender at the NFL level. The tools are there for being a pass rusher, but putting that together is still coming along a little bit. But as a run defender, this guy's ready to come in and make plays. And like you said, it seems like something that the Cowboys wanted to address. Is like, hey, our run defense is deeper than just, do we have linebackers making the right reads?
Yeah, the big problem with, I think, fans, and I shouldn't say it's a problem, but I think fans, and everybody does a great job, fans watching games, NFL.com, you get the tape, you pay for that service, and you're watching guys play, or you're seeing your guys breaking down guys for you. The thing that you always think about, it's the low-hanging fruit. Defensive tackle play, linebackers. There are some problems that you legitimately had on the edges.
Yeah.
Defending the run. And Neyland is one of those guys, and you're absolutely right. The strength, the power, the snap at the point of attack to be able to disengage and go make tackles, I think is impressive. That alone is very impressive. Where he is going to have to develop, I don't think he's a bendy guy. I don't see a bendy rusher. So with that being said, you're going to have to develop some things. His first step quickness, I think, is good, but then I think he's got to be able to carry that to the next step and then to get to the shoulder and then get around the corner. But there's a lot of these guys that are super bendy, but they're not strong.
Yeah.
They don't play the run well enough. And I think Dallas made a commitment to say, we got Tank on one end. We'll see what happens with Sam Williams. That's one that you're kind of waiting on.
I think Sam Williams is teetering for this team right now, where it's not like they're just we're done with you or anything else, but I think they're like, hey, I think they definitely feel like, hey, this is the year where we should either see big growth from you or we recognize you just maybe weren't the guy we thought you were going to be.
Couple of players like that. Tolbert, maybe the same thing.
And I think Tolbert's operating even further behind than Williams is.
Yeah. So Tolbert,
which is disappointing. I was a big fan of his.
But let me tell you this. Golston. Golston, to me, watching him at Iowa, I thought he was a point of attack, strong guy, not bendy, but, wasn't going to let you run the ball outside of him. But he's played a couple different positions. He's played end. He's played tackle. It's a lot like watching Tyron Crawford play back in the day. Is he an end? Is he a 3 technique? What is he? You just continually move him around until you but you never really figured out. And Crawford got really banged up. But there's some guys, Sam Williams, and I think Golston are on that path now of you've got to find a way to be more productive, and you got to find a way to when we play you, that you are not a liability out there. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out. But Nealon is a good run defender, but can he develop as a pass rusher? And did they make this pick thinking that they need to be better on the edges? I think that has something to do with it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Dorrance Armstrong was a guy who had come around on some of the pass rush stuff, but you always felt like he was lacking a little bit in the run game. I know one of the comparisons we heard was for Nealon was DeMarcus Lawrence type of starter kit. And maybe they've got an eye to the future of, hey, Lawrence is not going to be here for forever. Do you see any of those traits in terms of the athletic profile or anything else? Do you see anything DeMarcus Lawrence like about Nealon?
The thing with Nealon, I mentioned the first step quickness. I think Tank is very similar that way. Tank's able to carry it a little further. Tank is able to sell you the upfield shoulder and then go back underneath.
Can I let me rephrase? Let me rephrase really quickly. Do you recall your evaluation of D-Law coming out of Boise? Does he remind you of D-Law at the time coming out of Boise at all?
Better pass rusher.
D-Law is a better pass rusher coming out of Boise.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I felt like there was more of that when you attack that shoulder, the ability to close was more what I saw with Lawrence than what I saw with Nealon. But when you start to talk about both of them and the power they play with coming out of school, Nealon might have a little bit more to him than what Tank had. And
I mean, athleticism, Tank, I think Tank's a really good athlete. Tank didn't test like a great athlete when he was coming out.
No.
And so Nealon, the traits are there for Nealon, like athletically. It exists. It's just a matter of kind of pulling that out of him. How comfortable are you? You spent a lot of time around Greg Ellis. Knowing that Greg Ellis will be here helping to work with him, what kind of a worker was Greg Ellis? Do you think that Greg? I mean, it's been said by so many people. It sounds like that Greg Ellis was has had a coach's heart from the time he was like a young player. That he wants to help and he wants to teach. Do you feel better about the projection of Nealon, knowing a guy like Greg Ellis is going to be here to like coach him through some of that stuff?
Sure. I was in Philadelphia when Greg Ellis was coming out, and we were the draft in Philly, and Dallas selected him ahead of when we at 11 we took Trey Thomas, the tackle. And I joke with Greg. I said we had to draft Trey Thomas to be able to block you, you know. And he always gets a chuckle out of that. Both these guys, Ellis and Nealon, have some stiffness to their game. I think Greg is a better at getting up the field, shoulder to the ball, to the quarterback. Nealon, I think, is stronger than Ellis. I think he's a stronger player. Greg was a little bit more of a slippery guy, up the field, kind of a little bit of some more wiggle. Nealon, I don't know if he's that kind of guy, but I do believe he's a stronger player physically than Greg Ellis was.
How much of what you see in terms of limitations with Nealon when you talk about, you know, getting that shoulder around, turning, getting to the quarterback, how much of that do you think can be flattened or can be lessened with better technique? Or is it just athletic limitation, do you think?
These are tough things, you know.
It's part of the projection, yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, you're talking about the projection. Nothing against the MAC, the coaching. Some outstanding players come from the MAC. You wonder with technique work, technique teaching, programs, drills, can you pull that out? This kid you mentioned is a really good athlete. He does have a little stiffness to his game.
Yeah.
You know, but is that something he's always going to have to deal with? But like I say, the power is there. The desire, the effort to chase the ball from the backside is there. You know, those are some strong things. I just worry about him carrying that past that first step. You know, I don't worry about this kid taking on tackles all day, playing run defense.
Yeah, the motor is 100. The motor's 100% there.
Yeah, I do worry about him if all of a sudden do people, you know, is it turned into one of those things where what is the one thing when people want to bag on Tank? What's the one thing they always say?
Well, I mean, it's the finish, the sack numbers, the those things, yeah.
But then when you watch the tape, what do you always have to remind people?
Yeah, he does his job. I mean, he plays run defense and he generates pressure. Like he still generates pressure.
Yeah, he is one of those guys that has a feel for how to, especially in tough situations, how to all of a sudden slant inside instinctually, goes inside and makes a tackle for a loss on a 4th and 1 play.
Oh, instincts are off the charts with
no
Tank.
question.
Yeah.
See, that's what I'm saying. People like, well, Tank doesn't do this and Tank doesn't do that. No, Tank's a really good football player. You're focusing in on numbers that he probably won't generate. But when you ask him to make plays, what does he do?
He makes
4th
plays.
and 1, knifes inside. Or 2-point play, knifes inside, jumps a snap. You know, he's got a feel for that.
Yeah.
You know, we'll see if Nealon develops that type of a feel. And we'll see if he develops as a pass rusher. Nealon might be a really good player for the Cowboys and never have the sack numbers.
Yeah. And the sack numbers may still come along too.
Or pressures.
Look, I mean, like, let's say it this way. Dorrance Armstrong's sack numbers came along. I don't know that I would ever say Dorrance Armstrong as a player matched the sack numbers you saw. Like, I think the sack numbers made him look like a better player.
Though.
Yeah.
When you watched him in Kansas, he was a bendy kind of a player.
Sure. Yeah. No. And I totally see that. I'm just saying, like you point out, sacks are not necessarily the true measure of how good is an edge player. True. Because Dorrance Armstrong has produced better sack numbers recently than DeMarcus Lawrence. And I don't think there's anybody who would say Dorrance Armstrong is anywhere near the player that DeMarcus Lawrence is. Right. And so that's just something that you have to look at there. But Nealon, at the very least, you're talking about traits, upside, motor. The word we kept hearing all week, Bryan, about all these players, one of the words we kept hearing was temperament. Like this, they that's clearly, whenever we talk about, like, do you have enough of an edge? Do you have enough glass eaters? Do you have tough guys? Do you have like motors that run hot? That 100% seemed like a focus in this draft, was like, hey, just as much as getting athletes or guys who fit needs, like what we need on this football team right now is like, we need a certain type of player. Like we need a certain type of energy. We need a certain type of person Monday through Saturday and for all 60 minutes on Sunday. That it felt like that was a real focus for them, Bryan.
I agree.
Now, when you watch the guys that they got, obviously the first 4 days, day 3, a lot of times you are just throwing at traits, or later you're trying to prevent guys from getting to undrafted free agency. But when you look at the first 4 guys, Maris Leofau, I know, was the one that you know, even though you think Nealand has some things where you have questions about, you at least see the traits and go, okay, I can understand that one. I know Maris Leofau was the one that you were a little bit like, I don't know that I see a 3rd-round player there. And then you've got a running back with an opportunity that you could have taken there and addressed the need. So I know, I just wanted to give you a chance to talk about that, because I know that's the one that a lot of fans right now are feeling a little bit, you know, less than thrilled about. But just in general, your idea. I know, Bryan, I talked to a couple different teams about Leofau. I heard 5th round from one team, 4th round from another team, and 3rd from another team. So there was kind of a variance around him. But
4th round player.
Yeah. So what did you think of Maris Leofau when you watched him play?
You know what? I love the fact he played all the linebacker positions. I think he's a true off-ball linebacker, though. When you watch him play, I think he's really good in coverage. I think he has an understanding of where routes and how routes develop, and where
former defensive back.
Yeah, and I think that's a real positive thing for me. I think he's a very effective tackler, whether he's space or right at him. There's a couple of times where he'll miss a tackle, and you're like, okay. But he's around the ball. I mean, he hustles. He reads. I think he reads pretty quickly when it comes to balls here. He's going. You know, Notre Dame had a couple of linebackers that were really, they're downhill players. They had showed toughness. Bertrand was the other one that was drafted. Matter of fact, I had their tags like touching. They were that kind of players to me, like one or the other. And I think with Maris is that he is able to, when you ask him to do specific things, whether it's playing coverage or to blitz, he seems to be like it's not uncomfortable for him, or it's not something he can't do. I think there's a lot of things that you always talk about, the tool belts and stuff like that. I probably did not give him enough respect for, where he probably would have gone. I didn't have him going in the 3rd round. I know that. I had other linebackers. Me, I was focusing on Wallace, Kentucky. I was focusing on other linebackers in this draft. But I understand why they made this pick. We had a chance to talk with Scott McCurley, the linebacker coach.
Mm-hmm.
And, what they went through last year when they started losing players, when they started losing linebackers and having to play Marquise Bell and others at that linebacker spot, give them a lot of credit for getting through that. But you knew they were going to take a linebacker or two. Yeah. Because they did not want to go through that for sure again.
Yeah. But, and I think, it's funny. Leofau, you talking about all the different things he does. Is part of the issue with Leofau maybe not what he can't do, but more in terms of like where he can't do this, where he can't do this, but like he can kind of do everything, but you feel like there may be limitations to all of it. Like it's the whole jack of all trades, master of none. Did you think like that's kind of
better than that?
Okay.
I think he's better than that.
Yeah, I do too. I was just just trying to figure out where you come down on him.
I know you're not trying to be critical of the kid.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to say, to me, man, I was just watching him play, and I'm like going, another tackle. Oh, look, he covered the back out of the backfield. Oh, look, he got that guy in space. Oh, USC tried to throw the ball to Lloyd out here in the flat, and he was right there. Look what he did against Stanford. Look what, there's a lot of positive plays about him. I just don't think he's like those top linebackers that we were dealing with, the Wilsons, the Coopers, those kinds of guys that were just making tackle after tackle after tackle. This kid's though is smart, and I think he sees the game the right way. But there might be some physical limitations. I think he's as big as he's going to be, though, Bobby. I think he's 6'1", 234.
He's already put on a lot of weight from when he got to college. So he might be. He could be filled out.
I wonder if he's maxed out for his weight.
One more quick note here. One more quick question for you before we get to the day 3 stuff. Leah Fowl, Eric Kendricks, DeMarvion Overshown, Damone Clark. Do you feel better about the linebacker room right now, or significantly better about the linebacker room right now than you did at the end of last season?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so then
Kendricks, I think Kendricks is not what he was 3-4 years ago. He still makes plays. And then Overshown, Overshown looks like to me he's remade his body. And and that
they are so excited for it. You heard when we talked to Scott McCurley, you heard that devastated that coaching staff when they lost Overshown. They had so many plans for him.
You might think of that draft differently if he would have gone on and been a starter.
I think people in that building thought he could have been a defensive rookie of the year candidate. They thought he was going to be really good.
Absolutely.
So it absolutely matters. You're listening to the Love the Star podcast. The Love the Star is an Odyssey podcast. You can find it on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Bryan, finishing up here with day 3 stuff. We talk really quickly. Kalen Carson from Wake Forest, the corner. Was that for you about filling a need, do you think, or was that, again, just a blinking light situation? I mean, you don't know necessarily. Gilmore's gone, it appears. So you're talking about heading next year with Bland, Diggs, potentially Carson. I mean, Jordan Lewis will be involved in there. But for the future, 2 years from now, you're looking at likely Bland, Diggs, and Carson being your group there. Is that somewhere where you think they felt like that was a need and, hey, we can lock this in for the future? Or was that just about, hey, we're going value? We have so many issues with depth on this team right now that wherever we find value, we're picking it.
Yeah, clearly. This kid at Wake Forest, he played it as what we known as a field corner. So you've heard us talk about boundary corners, and those are the guys that play into the sideline, the half the field into the sideline. And then you got the field corner, which takes everything else. And this kid can play both sides. He's got length. He's got size. He's tough. He'll tackle. He'll carry, carry routes inside across the field.
Yep.
He'll break up passes. Think he needs to work on the hands a little bit more for the turnover aspect of things. But, Al Harris will drill him and get him, hopefully to where he's, hell, if he's knocking down balls, fine. If he's catching balls, even better. He's Deron Bland if he's catching balls. But this kid is tough, and he's played a lot of snaps. He's one of those guys, I think, Bobby, that you could, even with the footwork and the field aspect, the field corner aspect, I think you could play him in the slot because he's used to having carry routes all over the field, playing that field side. So I think this is one of those, Al Harris does a great job with these guys. Yeah. I mean, he really does. Joe Witt and Al did a nice, Bland. They just need to see if they can get a couple of these other guys playing. But I love the Carson. I really do love him. I thought when he was picked, I'm like going, now here we go. This now we're back on track.
When we talk about, when we led up to the draft, and we talked about, hey, if they were to take a corner, what would a Zimmer corner look like? And we talked about length. yeah. Honestly, length. Talking about the toughness and the play strength to be able to effectively press. Sticky, not so much grabby as a result of it. And I think, like, when we talk about all those descriptions, it's like, yeah, that kind of checks every single box here for what Kalen Carson put on tape. I think Carson, you could argue, was their biggest value pick of the draft in terms of value for where he should have gone or the type of player he was versus picking him with a 5th round compensatory pick. Essentially, you're picking him in the 6th round. And I think that, look, they've had some good luck with 5th round corners that they feel they've snatched from teams. If you just look at Deron Bland recently, wasn't Scandrick a 5th round pick too?
He was.
I think it was, so good luck. You got a bunch of good luck with 5th-round corners here in Dallas. The last 3 picks of the day, Ryan Flournoy, the receiver from Southeast Missouri State. Your thoughts on Florida? To me, I think you look at Flournoy, the biggest thing, I saw very little of Flournoy throughout the process, but for me, what I saw was, in terms of, if you just look at like the peripherals and, hey, what kind of profile this fit, he is athletic profile of a Cowboys receiver, I think, to a T.
Oh, yeah. This kid, you know, sometimes Southeast Missouri, you know, there's some good football around the country. This is a kid that probably got missed by a Big Ten or Big 12, or he got missed in the recruiting process is what happens here. I don't know his complete story, but I'm saying somebody probably missed this kid. But you look at his size, his ability to catch the football away from him. The thing that he is going to, the learning curve part for him is going to be tough. He did not run a lot of routes. He is not, I mean, they're going to have to, he's going to have to get used to his own routes, combination routes. He's going to have to be able to, it's like, okay, you've got to clear because we got a crosser coming behind you, or you've got to run the slant because we got an out coming behind you. You know, he's going to have to learn all the nuances of how to run routes. But the athletic ability, run after catch, the ability to catch the football, all super positive.
Then we go to the
I will say this, though. I will say this. I need to figure out what was wrong with Brendan Rice, Jerry Rice's kid.
Yeah.
Because I had 2 receivers left when he, you know, or I had actually a few receivers left when he got picked, and then all my receivers went. Everybody that I graded went in the draft. But I need to know what happened with Rice, because was that a USC thing at all, do you think? Because the 2 guys that looked like they were hanging around were Brendan Rice and Taj Washington. Yeah, both of them. Both of them were.
Is that some sort of Lincoln Riley system
Caleb
criticism?
Williams play, and I'm thinking, who's he throwing the ball to?
Yeah.
You know, and to me, maybe it's just because of, you know, my background with the Packers and stuff. But a smaller school guy, USC, Southeast Missouri, you know, you're kind of you're kind of thinking, wow, this guy's making plays against, you know, this guy's making plays against Notre Dame. He's making plays against UCLA and Washington, and, you know, he's making plays in games, and you're going, okay, but man, I need somebody to tell me why. I need somebody to tell me why there, because I'd like to know if there was something that I didn't know about the player, because sometimes medicals show up. But the kid from Southeastern Missouri can play a little bit. We'll see. We'll see how it all shakes out, because, again, I'm keeping my eye on Lloyd, the running back at Green Bay, and now Rice, wide receiver at the Chargers or Rams.
Yeah, he went to, I believe it was
Los Angeles team.
Yeah, I can't remember which one he had gone to.
It was the Chargers.
Now, the next one that they got here, the next pick, Nathan Thomas from Louisiana Lafayette. And this one's interesting because Nathan Thomas was one of the ones that, again, as we're going throughout day 3 and I'm saying, hey, who do you still have left on your board, or who are you surprised is still hanging around? Just people I'm texting around the league. Thomas's name had come up about a round before Dallas took him. Cowboys end up taking him in the 7th round. Mike McCarthy, that was the giddiest he looked about a single pick all week. He looked like he was just floored they got Nathan Thomas there.
He's an offensive line expert now, according to Jerry Jones.
That's what I've heard. So it's just like anything, Brian. So I think that when you look at Nathan Thomas, man, the size is incredible. I think that there's some impressive stuff on tape with him. That it sounds like they're going to try and move him inside the guard. Talking around to some people, there were some teams, I guess, that had some medical flags on him, and that may have been why he lasted to where he did. But Nathan Thomas overall, a really high upside offensive lineman for you to grab in the 7th round.
Yeah, you watch the tape at Louisiana, and
you're not going to throw Lafayette on there?
Well, they no, you know,
you'll let them have it.
They're trying to get rid of the Lafayette part. By the way, if if you're ever down in Louisiana, going to Lafayette, Louisiana, if you really want to eat some really good food, it's a great town to stop in if you want to.
There you go.
But yeah, the player he's massive. He's one of those guys that when you watch him get away from the line of scrimmage, he sets well. He is knee bend. He's got hands in place. You could tell that if you try and rush him down the middle, he is going to eliminate you. Guys trying to get on the edge, he's going to get his hands on you and either push you by or just work you wide. In the running game, he's going to when the ball comes behind him, he's going to get his guy. He's got mass, and he's just going to push. And he's going to stay on his feet. He's not a sloppy technique guy. His ability, like I say, to create space in the running game is impressive. His ability to pass set, hands, feet working together is also a really nice trait for a tackle to have.
All right, Bryan, I'm going to give you our Chill Boys ballsy take of the show. You ready for it? All right, and remember, chillboys.com, promo code STAR, you get 15% off. I think after watching Nathan Thomas and talking to some people, maybe here, maybe somewhere else, but I think eventually Nathan Thomas is a full-time starting offensive lineman in the NFL. I think the traits are really good. And for a league that's starving for that kind of size and those kind of traits, somebody is eventually going to say, whether it's here in Dallas or somewhere else, somebody's eventually going to say that guy needs to be that guy's good enough to start in the NFL.
I think that's a fair assessment.
And so I think that he's impressive. Last one here, Justin Rogers, the defensive tackle from Auburn, a transfer from Kentucky, true one technique, true nose guard, big guy. He is the what is it you call it, the trash can full of dirt?
Trash can full of dirt.
That's him, man. Cowboys dipped in the Kentucky well for this once before with Quentin Bohanna. Did not work out as well. As we wrap things up here, your thoughts on Justin Rogers with the last pick.
That's, right now there were a couple of guys. I think Anderson was the other one from Florida Atlantic I was kind of thinking about. But, this kid he's big. Excuse me, he's big, of course, because of his weight. He's really active for a guy that size. Pretty impressive the way that he's able to take on blockers, take on double teams, kind of hold up in that regard. But, he's just not letting the grass die under his feet. The guy's kind of moving around a little bit and being able to – that's what you want. You don't want a guy that's just going to stand there and get in people. Now, you can get a guy that gets in people's way, but give me a guy that's got a little bit of ability to take on blocks but also move. And then as they're moving, then all of a sudden things get wadded up, and then the back has nowhere to go. And I think this kid, Rogers, I think he's got that ability to take on those blockers, disengage, then go make a play. Or if he gets double teamed, he's holding up the blockers and then moving, which has allowed others to go and get the ball. And anytime you can create a little bit of a hesitation with the running backs, that's a good thing. Hesitation leads to getting people to the ball, and that's what he's able to do.
Last question here for you before we wrap things up. Given the lack of bodies, honestly, on the interior right now, the interior defensive line for the Cowboys, decent shot. You think Rogers makes the roster?
Yeah, I think there's, that's they don't have really. Well, we'll see what happens with Mozzie Smith. All kinds of thoughts, good thoughts his way for rehab, and hopefully he can get back into the mix and get back into the rotation of stuff. Get whatever he needs done off the field. Take care of himself on the physical side, the mental side. He's got a big task ahead. But if not Rogers, then I think that they're going to look at the waiver wires at the end of training camp and say, okay, we got to go get this guy. We got to go trade one of those compensatory 5s that we have, or a 6 or something, much like they did, to get the guy they had, last year or the last several years. So
That does it for us here today on the Love the Star podcast. Thank you so much for listening and hanging out with us. Undrafted free agency. Cowboys scooped up a couple different guys there. Ezekiel Elliott is back in Dallas. We kind of assumed that was happening, so we talked about that already a little bit. But the offseason is upon us. This enters a whole new wave of free agency, though. You will have guys getting released as post-June 1 cuts. And now when the Cowboys sign free agents, it does not affect their compensatory pick formula for next year, which is something they were guarding closely. So you might start seeing a few more depth signings that the Cowboys could be involved with. That's why I think, day after the draft, you're seeing, Ezekiel Elliott, sign him up. Damian Wilson, sign him up. We're getting the band back together. Maybe we'll go get Jamil Showers. I don't know. We might do that just for old time's sake. But for Bryan Broaddus, I'm Bobby Belt. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. We'll talk to you guys again later. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest updates. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.